Mm. Hello, it's a Shelby cast. We haven't had one of these in a little while, so yeah, Rodney should be joining us shortly. Uh, yeah. Uh. Boom. Maybe I should let him know. uh, it's been a while since we did an actual Shelby cast, and Rodney's been on, so it's gonna be uh, a good one. All right, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. All right, let's wait for the old rodster. There he is. Hopefully it works. Yeah. Yeah. So,
What's up?
not much. What's up?
Not a whole lot. I got a different phone, so like I had to go through like after it said live, then I had to go through an okay like to join live and to allow Facebook to access my camera and my phone and everything else. Now they're in my new phone. So
Yeah.
so
I can't see you because for whatever reason, when I do the live thing,
you
it's just
can't
a
see
black
me.
screen. No, it's not your phone. It's mine. It's mine. It's perfectly fine on the stream. It's
It's
just
not
what
you,
for
it's
whatever
me.
reason,
Yeah.
Facebook does that on my phone.
Oh man. You got like a burner phone or something or what?
I wish. No. I wish it was that easy. No, it's actually it might be it might be something in the settings, like the app settings.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe a permission I didn't give it or something, but I don't know. I have to look at that.
Could be. So yeah, I mean, I would like to start doing podcasts again. I just been so frustrated with politics. I'm just trying to like not even pay attention to it. Epstein stuff, Trump stuff, just so frustrating. I was telling my wife I'm done endorsing any politicians at all. I'll still keep voting, I'll vote for the lesser of evils, but
Yeah,
I'm just done. I just haven't even paid attention. But um I'd like to start podcasting again. Like I said, I'm sure I'll inevitably talk about politics, and like tonight I will. But I mean, definitely like UFO stuff, Bigfoot stuff, things like that, for sure. Local stuff. I know I saw you were talking about the Bears, moving to Indiana possibly there. I saw
yeah.
that, and that was pretty cool. With
Bears, the
with Felt,
electric bill,
yeah,
or no, the gas bill. Sorry,
yeah,
gas bill.
yeah.
Yeah,
So. But no, did you get a chance to see what I had posted on Facebook?
I had actually seen it before you even said anything to me. I just,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
So I'll start out with my thoughts on it and why I posted it. So
okay,
I don't know if you saw the Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee interview, and they were talking about Zionism and about Israel and Greater Israel, and then they went into basically, do other countries and do nations have that same right then, or do they have a right to their land, or do they have a right to that region, so on and so forth?
yeah.
And my opinion on that is you have your God-given rights, and then rights that are given to you by like the state of the government. So like your God-given rights, your right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, things like that, which a lot of countries now are infringing on those anyways. And then, you have your rights that are given to you by the government, which would be like your right to vote, or right to a fair trial, or right to whatever, all the things that are given in the Bill of Rights. But
None of that is given by the government. All of that is given by us.
well, yeah, you know what I mean though. But they're not
I
rights.
give it to I'm like,
They're not they're
yeah.
not they're not rights given by God. God never said you have a right to a fair trial, or you have the right to vote, or those things. Is basically what I'm getting at.
Well, I
So
mean, technically, a lot of it's founded in that, like, for instance, uh, like a fair trial, like a lot of what, so like you have to have 2 to 3 witnesses that witness something. You know, it can't just be one person who said you did this. I mean, a lot of different. It actually does lay out a case for a fair trial and to
yeah,
judge justly. That's like if you read the Old Testament, that's probably like a good like 40% of what it talks about is like judges to judge righteously and then just people in general to judge fairly and righteously and not be swayed and not to give I
yeah,
mean one of the 10 commandments, don't bear false witness. That's basically a court that has to do with like, you know, if someone pulls you in and they're like, oh, you witnessed this, that you don't just lie on your neighbor.
yeah.
So
But those are protected by our Bill of Rights. So those are protected by our government is who enforces those laws, or who, because you can't go to, I mean, you couldn't go to China or North Korea. There's a lot of countries, a lot of places you couldn't go to, and like you're saying, that's laid out in the Old Testament. But you couldn't go to a lot of countries in this world and receive those rights and receive those benefits.
well, yeah, but none of so like I agree with you. I'm just saying that like none of those rights. So there's no such thing as rights given to you by God and rights given to you by government, and that like the only real thing that underpins your rights is force.
Yeah,
It just it is that's the key ingredient because if and that's why we have the Second Amendment.
yeah,
It's so that the government doesn't have a monopoly on force.
yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this. So
Oh, sorry.
what Matt Walsh had posted and then what I had reposted was that nations don't have a right to a certain land, or don't have a right to a territory. You don't have, like, there's no there's nothing that grants them that right to have that. Their only right to have that is their ability to defend it. So if you want to say, I've gone back and forth my entire life, I have believed that, you know, the Israelis or the Jewish people have the right to the promised land, to that area over there in the Middle East that's defined by the. If you look at a map of Greater Israel, or it'll show you like a map of the. And that's not saying what I believe now, but that's what I always
Yeah.
thought. But then when you think about that, it's like, okay, so what are we saying then? Like, who's enforcing that? And if they have the right to that, then do Native Americans or do other cultures have the right to come to the United States and say, "Hey, that's our land. We want it back. We have the right to that." Or, you could even say, "Okay, well, how far are we going back? Because are we going to say that, you know what, Russia has the right to Ukraine because the Ukraine used to be ruled or governed by Russia in this during the Soviet Union?" Or I mean, you could go throughout the entire history of the planet and look. I mean, the Spaniards conquered the Incans, the Incas and the Mayans. I mean, you could go back and say that the Spaniards even
Right.
the
Right. But God says that you know Israel is going to possess that land.
he says they're going to possess that land. But what did he make them do? He made them wait 40 years before they earned that, before they humbled themselves before him and were subservient to him. The,
Well,
he
yeah,
he
yeah,
made
they
them wait
didn't
40
listen.
years to do away with an entire generation of Israelites for them to earn that land, and then he said that I will not protect you from those. I forget, it's been so long since I read it. I will not protect you from those who are non-believer. What was it? But anyways, until he finally returns. So it's up to Israel to defend that and to keep that until he returns.
No, no, like it says. So, like, and I can't tell you verses, but like
So I
off the
say
top
it's
of
been a
my
long
head.
time since I read it, but
But basically, how it goes is so yeah, they disobeyed 40. So they refused to go in because they were scared. So they get banished 40 years. That generation passes, except for I think it's like Josh and
Caleb
one
and
other.
wasn't it Caleb and Joshua?
Yeah, yeah. And then they go in and they do the conquest, which is it's funny because they remove other tribes from their land, right? So they conquest the land, and then you go fast forward, you hit, or no, they go there. Moses goes, "Hey, God says if you keep if you do His will, as long as you keep His commandments, you do these things, you'll be good." And if you don't, then you're going to get thrown out into the nations. And then, fast forward, you got Solomon under Solomon, the nations are split. God splits, keeps, Solomon gets to keep, like, it's Judah, and I forget what the second tribe is. And then the other, uh, 10 tribes go up north. And then they disobey, and they do the same thing. They have idols. They create different worship spots. God says that you don't, they murder people. They pervert justice. And so eventually he's like, you know what? Like, get the hell out of the land. And that's what he does. He destroys the nation of Israel, and it basically removes them from the land and puts them among the nations. And then you fast forward, you got Judah. Eventually the temple's destroyed. Yeah, all that stuff, right?
All that
And
stuff.
then, yeah, that's everyone knows those stories, so I don't have
Yeah.
to.
But
But
it's like, but what I'm kind of getting at though is there's nothing, there's no one that's protecting a nation's right to exist. There's no right there. It's otherwise, like I said, I mean, what are you going to say for eternity? A certain country, a certain nation, a certain government has a right to a land, and we've seen throughout the history of this planet that's not how it works. That's not how. Otherwise, like I said, you then if you believe that, then we all have to leave here because the Native Americans that were here before us, then I guess have a right to it, or whoever
well,
was here
it's
before them,
special
or
because it's God's land, and He gets to determine who resides in that land.
if
Um,
if if you're
I'm
Christian,
playing devil's advocate,
I know
obviously, but
if you're Christian, yeah, you believe that. But if you're, I mean, if you think about it, there are more people on this planet, and I'm not trying to. I have nothing against the Jewish people, and I'm just using honestly Israel as an example because I had never really thought about this honestly until I saw that interview with Mike Huckabee, and that's kind of why I posted and why I wanted to podcast tonight because I want to talk about it because I'm still torn on it. But I mean, if you think about it, there's more people on this planet who probably would say that Israel does not have a right to that land than there is people that do say they have a right to that land. So if you're
and
saying
yet they exist
exactly because why? Because they have been able to keep that land and defend it for all this time. I mean,
and
obviously,
blackmail people and
well, yeah, obviously
destroy other countries' economies.
they're doing exactly what I said though. What I have said is that every country, to me, you don't have a right to exist. However, you have the right to defend yourself in whatever way you see fit. So you can do whatever you need to do to defend your sovereign land. That
Yeah, I agree. I've said this many times that like people are like, oh, you don't believe Israel has the, because I don't want to support giving aid, and they're like, you don't believe Israel has the right to defend. Like, no, I believe they have every right. In fact, I'm mad that our politicians don't fight for America the same way that
yeah,
they
that's
fight
hard.
for Israel, and Israel fights for Israel, right?
Yeah,
But like, what all I can say is like they have every right, but they don't have the right to force us to fight for them. Like
yeah,
instead, like they should be fighting on their own. Like we've gave them plenty of help, and
yeah,
like, but one of the main things that causes this main divide is how people see Israel, and because the modern day uh, Christian theology or belief is that like there's the church and then there's Israel and the two are separate but like if you well another interpretation is if you read it that once you it's not the church and Israel, there's only Israel, and if you join yourself to God, you're joining yourself to, I guess you could say, spiritual Israel or
yeah,
whatever, and you're becoming a citizen of Israel. Like there is no Jew or Gentile. Like But that's neither here nor there. And then if you read the Old Testament, which a lot of Christians don't, like you'll see that the whole purpose um isn't that there's the church and the Israel. It isn't, the purpose isn't that. The purpose is that God combines, he brings Israel back, and then he adds us to Israel. He allows us to become full citizens,
Yeah,
which but in that divide, in those two different like thoughts, if you think it's the church and Israel, then you're like, oh well, like they have every right to that land or whatever, and then we have to support them because but we don't. Like, in
yeah,
fact, if like the I would say the messed up stuff that they actually did to our country, they say they're allies, but they do mess up stuff to our country, which
yeah,
we have plenty of evil people
sure.
in our government too. Um, but it's like at this point, like we're under no obligation to help you, because if you're
Yeah.
gonna do bad stuff to us, like we need to step away.
Well, and I also had thoughts too. If nations had a right to exist or a right to their land, and I've talked to the people before about this. That everyone wants to say, well, that's, we're protected, or that's what the United Nations is for, or the UN is for. And it's not. But if that were the case, then why wouldn't everybody be members of NATO? Why wouldn't everybody have a voice at the UN? Why is it just like when you talk about the World Economic Forum and like the G7, where it's like the seven wealthiest nations? It's like if every country had equal rights, which that's what rights are, they're equal rights. If every country had an equal right to exist, then you wouldn't have just member nations. You wouldn't have just, oh, we're going to help this nation, but we're not going to help this other one, or vice versa. We're not just going to hear the voices of these richest nations, but not these little ones. I mean,
Yeah,
you see it all the time where we go to war with countries, or we invade countries, or we do regime change. And why do we do that? Usually it's oil, mineral rights, some sort of profit, something you can get out of it. But, these other countries, I don't know. You look at some of these South American countries, obviously not Venezuela at this point, but other some of these South American countries or other Middle Eastern countries, or maybe countries in Africa, that there's no benefit for us to go protect them. I mean, they're warring and feuding all the time. There's countries all the time that you don't hear about that are feuding and warring, and we don't do anything about it. It's because there's nothing for us to gain, which is terrible. It's sad, and it's like if every country had a right to exist, then we would be defending and helping every country that was under attack, and we don't.
yeah. I mean, and they make the argument that Israel's the tip of the spear. Like, it doesn't seem like they're the tip of the spear. It seems like they're really good at starting fights and then getting us involved to finish it.
Yeah,
Like, that kind of, like, it seems like they're the one holding the spear. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, it's it's kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, no, I have thought about this for a long time, like especially when it comes to like because Native Americans, and when I started reading about the history of Native Americans, like they conquered each other. Like no nation, like none, not Rome, not Israel, like no nation, right, has a right to exist.
and every
Um,
nation, no matter who it is, has blood on their hands.
yeah, and
There's
there is
none
no
that don't.
right. There is no such thing like you can have all the rights in the world, but if you can't enforce them, then
Exactly.
technically they don't exist. So I
Exactly.
seen the one lady, or there was someone. I'm not gonna. There was a person who commented, and she went into like all this stuff, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Most of what she said, because God sent the Hebrews there. They destroyed the land, all that stuff. Then God destroyed, or not necessarily destroyed, but he did destroy the nation of Israel, and then put them among kicked them out of the land. Eventually, Judah too
Yeah.
failed. Like, yeah, I mean, and then you have Babylon. You have like in the Bible, like there's all kinds of a talk of God allowing certain civilizations to be destroyed and stuff. Like, yeah, it just. Like,
Well, a lot of what it is, I think, it comes down to emotion. A lot of, I don't want to say liberalism, but liberalism and Democrats, a lot of things they want to come down and play to your emotions or play to your feelings, and to
well, that's not
say,
Democrats. That's also, I mean, that's largely Republicans.
yeah, I'm just talking specifically to like that, where like when you want to talk about like Native American land, or in this case we're talking about like Israel, that they're
That's
gonna
a Republican thing. Israel, yeah, Israel, Native
yeah.
American, yeah, to be left.
I guess
Israel is a large,
liberals are more on the Gaza side. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's just that they want to say, oh, you have a right to this or a right to that, and it's like, emotionally, it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like a good thing. It sounds like you should have certain rights to do certain things, but they're in reality they're not. I don't know. I guess kind of hard to explain what I mean, but
well, abortion is a good example. You should have a right to life, right?
yeah,
But,
yeah,
and because we don't enforce it, like people kill their babies. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They turn it into an emotional issue of that
yeah,
it's a woman's body or a woman's right, and it's like, well, I don't know any anti-abortion people that say, I've never heard an anti-abortion person say, at least in my circles, that they want to control a woman's body. It's about the life of the baby. But
yeah,
it's two different arguments, then no one wants to listen. So
yeah. It's because, but it's a woman's right. Like, well, yeah, like, it's only but that can change. If the law changes, then that right disappears, right? Just like the baby's supposedly has a right to life, but since the law doesn't enforce it, since there's no force behind it, like, it doesn't matter. Same thing with the Second Amendment. Like in some places you have a right, it is a right. In other places it's more of a suggestion or a privilege.
yeah,
So, um, I mean, at least for us, like it seems like the government is able to do what they want.
yeah. So what are you thinking on what's going on with Iran right now? Do you think we're just basically doing Israel's bidding? We're just trying to take care of the problem for them. I mean, we did the bombing of the nuclear facilities, which I was kind of for that. But now at this point, I'm like, is Israel just using us to take out their enemy or what?
Well, I mean, they are, but also Iran controls that area, or this like a straighter shipping, whatever. If they decided to shut it down, then it would cause pandemonium.
I just I
But
just think of like when they went in and they got Maduro out of Venezuela, and they talked about kind of that. I guess it's more than a triangle because it's Venezuela, Iran, China, and Russia that are basically all supplying each other, helping each other out. But I just feel like there's other ways to go about stopping Iran from doing that than a full on war with Iran. And who knows? I don't know what
well,
Trump's thinking. It may not even be a war. It might just be his scare tactic he's putting on him.
hopefully it's not a war. But
Yeah.
as long as this time he goes through Congress, like we're fine. Like
I don't think he's
the
planning on it, is he?
I don't know. I have to look. I haven't looked at the updates, but like with like Venezuela, I know, and people will say like the war power and this and that. Like, no, that was an unconstitutional act. Because even if you start reading on a lot of the stuff that's said, like no matter what, the president, like Congress has the sole power to declare war, and the president can't just go to war. And the only time that the president can deploy forces like that is if like the country was under attack and there wasn't,
Mm.
Congress didn't have a chance to react. The president can then deploy forces to defend the United States. Um, but like what he did in Venezuela was unconstitutional. And I know all the bootlickers and the Trumps, all those people on sucking Trump's nutsack. Um, that would have if it was Biden, they'd be crying about like it's funny how all the people who were like, oh, it's this or that is unconstitutional, but then when it's done, like the same things are done under
By
like
their
Trump.
guy. Yeah.
and it's like, oh well, you look in here and you got this act over here and this like because I'm like, but this is how I know people don't actually know the Constitution, and this is how the government does do whatever it wants is because the Constitution is the law of the land, not like any law that violates what's written in the Constitution is unconstitutional. It's not a law.
Yeah.
So if the
Yeah.
War Powers Act did grant the president what 32 hours to do like a military like that's unconstitutional, and then that would make the War Powers Act unconstitutional. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's what the War Powers Act does because it doesn't. He still has to get approval from
Yeah.
Congress. Um, but like he was supposed to be like, oh, like no new wars or whatever, and like it looks like there's plenty of wars. And
Yeah.
then
Sure is.
like him sucking on Israel's nutsack too, like hard. Uh, I don't know. And then with the Epstein file thing, like showing that like Israel, like there was top key, like if it, like the president of the former president of Israel, and like stuff like that, they're involved in. Uh, it's just, it's like, and there's so much redacted too. It's like, I don't really, and like our intelligence is involved as well.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, ah, man. I don't
Yeah. I
really
mean,
want to be.
yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
God.
to me, that's the only thing that's going on. You know, when I think about the Epstein stuff and what's going on, I think to myself like, what? Because you know, you had Dan Bongino that went in there and basically said he was going to take care of business, and nothing happened. And then you've
And
got
then
all these people before they got elected talking a big game, and I try to think to myself like, what could it possibly? What is so controversial in those Epstein files, or what is in those Epstein files that could just basically petrify all of them and stop them from releasing anything, pressing charges, doing anything about it? And the only thing I can figure is because just like what we've just been talking about, is that they don't want Israel to look bad any worse than they already do. Because I think Israel was using Epstein to come up with blackmail on politicians to make sure that Israel kept getting its money, to
well, I also
make
think
sure.
there's American. So, like, our intel, our CIA and stuff are in it too. So, I
Yeah,
think there's uh, a lot of pressure not to show how much involved the U.S.
yeah,
And we do the same things around the world. The most likely,
yeah,
I can almost guarantee we're doing the same with child.
yeah,
Like, and what's funny to me is like the Epstein's list. So, like, there's actual evidence, and like you can actually. Uh, You could create an actual list of people who actually did things wrong
yeah,
and put them to death. Like it's like, and this is like because the Epstein files actually gives you a way to punch up, right?
yeah,
So, because it's kind of like the John Wick thing where like everyone's under the table, right?
yeah,
And it's because they own I mean, well, clearly the justice system, they're the one, so they own the politicians that appoint the judges and all this stuff. So everyone only gets a slap on the hand or
yeah.
like it does. And then we see in the Epstein files that the FBI knew a lot and often did nothing.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
like,
Yeah,
let it be a regular person. If it was a regular person, they'd be in like prison forever, right?
yeah,
But since it's the elites, and so now we have a list of some small time elites because people are like, oh, they're billionaires, but they're small time. If you know their name,
yeah,
most of the time it's not the people at the
yeah.
top. So, but we got names
Oh,
where like now we can see justice on
yeah.
the elites. Um, and that would be, I mean, that'd be awesome.
My little glimmer of hope that I have, is I don't know if you saw this. They arrested Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew, well, he's not a prince anymore. His title was stripped from him. And then another UK politician, and I forget his name. Anyways, they were just arrested. And my only glimmer of hope is that they arrested those two people and they will able to, because my whole like the assumed positive intent part of me has thought, well, maybe Pam Bondi, maybe the Justice Department is seeing all these names, is seeing all these people, but just having a name on a list or just having of one photograph or just having a couple emails is not enough to convict a person.
Wait,
So,
hold on.
so
It's not
my,
a couple emails. It's 3 million emails
I know, but
or
let me finish.
in records and reports.
But let me
But
finish. Let me finish.
yeah, okay.
So my glimmer of hope is that they've arrested these two, and these two will be able to give firsthand testimony and corroborating evidence that they can finally start making actual arrests of like these people you're talking about. Because most likely these people are very powerful people who in most cases could just squirm their way out of it, lawyer their way out of it, or whatever. And so I'm hoping since these two arrests took place, then maybe now we'll start seeing the dominoes start to fall. They can corroborate things, they can give eyewitness testimony to things, they can give up sources and other information that needs to be confirmed before they can start
It'd be
arresting
like,
others.
what's to stop them from hanging themselves?
Well, hopefully, because there's different people in power now than there was when Epstein hung himself.
You, ah, I mean,
I mean,
this, but no, wait, that has nothing to do with us. That has to do with the UK.
what do you mean?
Like the people who were arrested, that wasn't us who arrested them.
No,
That
no,
was
no. But those,
these other
well,
countries.
but they're in a different country. But I'm saying those people that were arrested, Prince Andrew was very close to Jeffrey Epstein. He knows, I'm sure Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, if the Clintons were involved, all these people, I'm sure they all crossed paths or were involved together. Yes, they were arrested in the UK, but and they're UK citizens. But what I'm saying is that is going to be reason that
I don't know.
they can be witnesses
Yeah, I think
because
maybe
they don't have to worry about anything going on in the US.
it was. So then, why would that cause Pam Bondi or whatever to do anything? Because in the first place, they tried to stop it from coming out, and then they released it, and almost everything was redacted. And then they redacted the co-conspirator names, but then released the victims' names when it was supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah,
Like none of it makes any sense. Even Trump was like, it's a Democrat hoax.
yeah.
It, why would it be a Democrat hoax if like the majority of people in the Epstein files are
Well,
Democrats?
I'm not saying what they did was right, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I've gotten so fed up with Trump, and I haven't been watching politics or wanting to podcast because I'm so pissed off and fed up about it. But my point is, there's been two arrests, and I'm just saying that's my little glimmer of hope is those two arrests. But
Is that other
no,
countries will actually do what the U.S. failed to
I,
do?
I completely agree with everything you're saying. I'm just hoping that those two people they arrested can
Uh, But
inspire some more.
I've been telling people since before Trump got elected, since his last term, like when like he had the big Second Amendment thing, and then even this term, like his he makes a lot of promises for the Second Amendment, but then when you go and actually look what his Justice Department is doing, and like the tax stamp for the silencers, and then it went in there and it defended it so that it couldn't be abolished, like like what he says and then what they do in the court is like completely different because they know
Yeah,
most people aren't going to look. They just hear what he says and they go, "Oh, Trump said," da, 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 da. And then uh, yeah. So
that's what I'm
it's
saying. That's why I'm not going to endorse any more politicians. I don't trust any of them. I don't care who they are. I don't trust
you
them
should
anymore at
you
all.
should never ever ever
Never.
like
I don't
that.
anymore.
That was one of my takeaways when we went to like those dinners and stuff. Like I just got tired of hearing the same spews. Then when you
Oh
see what
yeah.
they actually do, is it's complete opposite of what they said they're going to do. Like I don't know. And then the judgment. Like the other thing is the Republicans that support them. Uh, even when they do the opposite, like they just ignore the bad stuff that that person
Yeah.
does, and they just all for the team. And I'm like, that doesn't work because when you do that, you kind of you get like you're no longer thinking of the average citizen, and you're just thinking about your elitist friend. Like you now become one of the elite, like the elite or you know lower level, but you're just playing the team game.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's funny you say that. So a guy I work with told me that he got a call. I don't want to say what community or because if I wasn't there to witness it or hear it, I don't want to say that it's gospel that it happened the way I'm saying it. But
yeah.
he's on a town council, and he got a call from the head of the Republican Party in that county and asked him if he would be willing to run for some sort of representative or some sort of position there, but they wanted to verify that he would be a good Republican first. And he said, well, what do you mean by that? And the person said, well, to make sure that you're going to go along with the Republican Party and the other elected people that are in the party. And he said, well, I mean, he's like, there's some things, and I guess he told this person like name some things that the Republicans had done in his county that he didn't like, and I guess this person was like, oh well, you're not a good Republican or you're not a conservative if you believe that stuff, and I was like, that's ridiculous. It's like if like it's like you just said, if you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, and then you're doing things that are not conservative, or you're doing things that you said you weren't going to do, then I'm not going to follow. I'm not going to go along with that. I'm going to call you out and tell you.
No. No, it's like in like I got a lot of like I got friends that are Republicans and they're all on the and then you could like they all say like oh yeah like they're like oh I see they're doing that and but they're like oh but what's the other option or or they'll like well I feel like if I go through the Republican route I can change or like it's all the same it's like and what's funny is you watch these people actually go in and they either get like uh their influence gets pushed down or they do get converted
Yeah,
and like that's the system is really good at that like Thomas Massey like the way Trump was calling him a rhino and all this but Thomas
yeah,
Massey's the only one that actually votes 100% Republican or
yeah.
conservative
Conservative. Yeah,
values and his people's that's why that like Trump was going to try and run a rhino
yeah.
uh, to beat him so that they would have someone who would just go along. Like, it's disgusting. But
Well,
like
yeah, yeah,
the thing that people forget is that Trump is actually a Democrat. Like Trump has been a Democrat for the majority of his life.
yeah,
Like he's just not one of those Democrats. Like he hasn't went that he's an outdated Democrat, right? Like I say 90s. I repeat that, but it's the truth. And
yeah,
like he's actually shifted the majority, or not the majority, but a good portion of the right further left and center of left or left of
yeah,
center. And it
yeah,
like to where like they had the ICE shooting, which the dude was an idiot, but then I had people arguing with me like, oh, he had more than two magazines on him. He was there to do destruction, and I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, people, two magazines is nothing. Some people carry three. Like when you talk about concealed carrying, like when did we become the left when you don't even know what the norm is
yeah,
for like firearms and stuff? Like, but it's mostly a lot of the people who are arguing that were women, and which is kind of now. I don't want to say it, but I gotta say it. Like the more I look at it, on both the left and on the conservative side, like when a lot of the dumb arguments I hear come from women, and it's about feelings instead of like facts, or like I know that sounds bad, but it's true. I was like, oh, maybe it's just
yeah.
and then as the more I look at it, I'm like, ah. And then I start seeing those people like, maybe we should repeal the vote for women. And I'm like, nah, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah. I just want to say like that second ice shooting, since you brought it up. I watched those videos over and over and over again, and the only thing I could really figure happened with that is, so that guy was on the ground, basically like on his hands and knees, and I forget what was it, five officers. I think five officers were surrounding him, and then so you had like two or three of the officers started shouting gun, 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 and then one of the officers removed the gun from the holster and walked away with it. And then
Yeah,
the other officer that was standing behind him started shooting. And what I wonder, I just, part of my mind wonders if what happened was that officer heard the other officers yelling gun, 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 and then that officer saw the empty holster and thought he had it in his hand, which still, unless you see it, you shouldn't start shooting. But
yeah.
I'm almost wondering if that's what happened. If
But if
that
that were
off,
you or me, we'd be in jail.
yeah, no, you're 100% right. But I'm just saying, I'm wondering if that's what happened. If that officer that started shooting heard those other officers saying gun, 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 and then he saw the empty holster and just in the heat of the moment, in the passion of the moment, assumed he had the gun in his hand and just
Yeah.
started shooting. I
Which the
don't
dude was
know.
an idiot. He was dumb. Like,
Yeah.
cause there's footage of him like days before he kicked a truck or whatever, and
Yeah.
was wrestled. But what's funny is he had the same gun on him that time. They didn't shoot him. Like they
Yeah.
wrestled with him, but then,
Yeah.
but uh, but my main thing was is then when Trump and the FBI director was like, "Well, you're not allowed. You shouldn't be taking a gun to first. Like if you're gonna protest, you shouldn't have a firearm, especially not with two magnums. They're talking about this and how they framed him as like some kind of assassin or like terrorist
Yeah.
or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's kind of like I mean, so like whatever he was doing before is what he was doing before, but you have to judge. You can't take. You have to take the what he was doing in the moment of
Yeah.
when he got shot, like and just prior before that, like was he actually being a threat that day, right? Or and then even then when he kicked the car, as soon as they got out, it was like he never went for his gun. Like it doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
like he was a jackass. He should have went to jail. Like that first day, he should have been arrested
Yeah.
and taken to jail. But um, like it was the switch for me. Like where how the administration was then talking about you can't basically exercise your First Amendment right while you exercise your Second Amendment right, and then you had like a bunch of Trumpers like like robots start regurgitating the same thing and defend
Yeah.
it and and I'm like, man, like these are the people and a lot of them are like older and like these are the people that are the reason our nation is like the way where it is today because they weren't paying
Yeah.
attention. They went along with whoever was in the republic. Like they
Yeah.
do the like they're the reason it's falling apart and
Yeah.
like I that's one of my main things of why I actually am getting involved in stuff. Like
Yeah.
oh yeah, I signed up to be a delegate in the Republican Party. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then I also I might try and run for mayor to see. But
I think you should.
yeah, we'll see.
You get some flyers printed up, and I'll go door to door with you.
Yeah, that's um but like that's kind of like I'm like I don't want to be that same generation, the one that fights for Social Security, even though they know that it's gonna put their grandchildren and stuff in even further debt,
Yeah.
and then they're trying to move the age up so that they can stay comfortable and make the next like because you was it move it up to 75 or something like that.
I think it's 72, I think.
72, yeah. But like, how many people actually live that long to 72? Like,
It's you know what? It's sad to say, but I have seen a lot of my parents are weird. They had me at an older age, so my parents are actually almost 80. But
yeah,
I've got a lot of friends that I went to high school with that their parents are in their late 60s and they're passing away. And it's
Yep.
like, it's crazy, just like you're saying. It's like you retire, you work your fingers to the bone, you work your whole life towards retirement, towards the point where you don't have to work anymore and can enjoy everything you've worked for your whole life. And then you retire, and a couple of years later, you're dead. You know.
Yep. And you don't even get like that great of benefits anyways. So it's like,
Well, and
don't we think?
yeah, if you're depending on Social Security, no, I mean, I'm not depending on Social Security at all. I mean, I'm making my own way. I mean, I'm not my
Yeah.
retirement plan. I'm not even thinking about Social Security. So,
Yeah. Like I want to, like, honestly, I want to do away with Social Security for something better. Like this doesn't work.
I
There's got to
I
be a better way
I
to,
always
if you,
thought I always thought what they should do. Let's say you're 50 and under, they just cash you out. Whatever you paid in, cash you out. If you're between 50 and 60, they give you the option. If you're between 50 and 60, you either can continue and get your Social Security or cash out. If you're 60 and above, you're going to go ahead and get your Social Security. And they should just do that and then end the whole thing.
yeah, yeah, like, and people are like, well, and this is the argument, like, well, people don't save for themselves, and I'm like, well,
Why not?
like, technically, people are still like, even at the end, they're still struggling and having to work part-time jobs and stuff. So it's like,
But you know what though? If they ended Social Security, and so let's say you start working at whatever 16 years old now. I don't know, 16, 18, whatever kids start working at these days. If you took the money that Social Security takes out of your paycheck and you put it in whatever, I don't know whether you want to put it in an IRA, a 401k, or you want to put it in an investment, Bitcoin, gold, whatever the hell you want to put it in. If you started doing that when you started working, you would be fine. Because
yeah,
if you start that young and you just put whatever Social Security is taken out of your paycheck and instead set that aside yourself, you're going to be fine. You're going to have
yeah.
plenty of money to retire on.
And the ones that are defending Social Security, like, they don't realize that they are socialist. Like, they really are. Like,
Yeah,
they're entitled just like socialists, because
yeah,
Social Security is a socialist program. Like, if
yeah,
you look up the history, it is. It's just what it
yeah,
is. And originally, it was even sold that you would have your own account, and then they didn't do the accounts. They just made it one lump.
yeah,
I mean, for obvious reasons, but it would be way too effective if you actually had your own account that the government couldn't
yeah,
touch, right? Um, but like a lot of them, and then you see the way they argue for Social Security and this and that, and it's like, you guys are socialists. Like,
yeah,
you just are. Like, in the United States itself is like, we're not some like free market, like, bastion of, you know
yeah,
uh but like, we actually are more of a fascist, uh well, I mean, we are like fascists because, the government basically controls the private enterprise that makes all the rules for it, and
yeah,
that just lets and then the people. So like, basically, the main companies of industries pretty much set the rules and stuff like that, or have a big influence. And that was set up during the New Deal, and then today they use like lobbies and stuff like that.
yeah,
But uh but yeah, basically, and then like, we see the bailouts. We see, because we have a fractional reserve system, which basically socializes the losses of of these private large corporations. It socializes those so that we pay for their losses, but then they get to keep their winnings.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, like, we live in a fascist, um our I mean, fascist, and we're heading towards more of a communist kind
Yeah.
of, I mean, up until like recently, like not all, like, under Donald Trump, it's more of a fascist, like, government. And I'm not talking about like killing Nazis and or killing Jew. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about as like an economic system.
Yeah, it's the
Not,
fascist system.
yeah, not the other stuff. Like, most people don't. I mean, Like I'm no expert on it, but at least I looked. Most people don't
Yeah.
even can't even tell you what actual
Yeah.
fascism is. So
Yeah. Well, and then back to the Social Security thing, just for a second, like, and I've been saying this for a while too. They use Social Security now too as a blackmail device. You know, vote for our candidate, or your Social Security is going to get cut or taken away, or
yeah,
we can't shut down the government, or your Social Security checks are going to stop. You know, they use it
yeah,
to threaten people now, and it's a weapon, you know, because and Social Security is not going to go away. You're still going to get your checks. It's still going to be there, but they use it
yeah.
like people like my parents that get scared that if the government shuts down, their Social Security is not going to come. They're going to lose all their
It's
Social
a control
Security. Or
mechanism. Yeah,
yeah, it's a control mechanism.
yeah. And the thing is that like that's a good example of how that
Yeah,
generation has betrayed us.
yeah,
Like the and like even me grow like I see that like when you give up responsibility, so like they gave up their like part of their retirement responsibility, they gave it to the government and they rely on that, and so
yeah,
that's made them a slave to the
yeah,
government. So now when they're like, oh, someone's gonna get in the government and cut your government, retirement
yeah,
off, and they're like, oh God, like
yeah,
he's gotta go, right?
yeah,
Like it's dumb. Like they betrayed it. Like they sold out. Uh, I mean, they sold out the next generations and folded on their uh, I guess on their American values, like the ones that the founders expected us to. I mean, most of them don't know them anyways, but uh, like they sold it out. They sold us out, and they're one of the largest. I mean, again, they're largely the reason we're in a semi or a largely socialist country
yeah.
with a
Well,
lot of
and
socialist
then you
programs.
have half the country, it seems like anymore, that wants the government to take over your health care. They want them to be in charge of all health care. It's like, are you serious? Like, you want to talk about a control mechanism? You know, go to these other countries where you can't get in to see a doctor. You know, they say, oh, healthcare is so great and it's free in other countries. It's like, well, then why do people come here for major surgeries and healthcare? Why do the rich of other nations come here for their healthcare?
Well, we're actually starting to see that too. Like I've noticed that like now it's if you're on, especially if you're on like the government ones,
Yeah.
where like because like some of them now that you even pay for, like but like it's a lot harder to get in places,
Oh yeah.
uh, especially if you need like a special doctor or like
Yeah.
something like it's become ridiculous because there was like one time my daughter had like an issue and it was almost like 4 or 5 months before they could get her in.
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. I'm diabetic, you know that. So they take my blood every 3 months, and they go through everything, go through all my numbers of everything. And so back last October, they said, "Hey, one of your numbers is high, and that's not something that an endocrinologist or a diabetes doctor treats. That's something you have to go to a different kind of specialist for that. If that's truly high." And
Yeah,
it could possibly be something serious. I don't know. So they said, but we'll send you a referral to a specialist. And so, long story short, I had to get several referrals. Every time they'd send a referral, oh well, we don't have anyone right now, or there's nothing open. So finally, I ended up having to go to a different doctor. I went to a general care practitioner instead of my diabetes specialist, and then she was able to send me a referral to Cameron Hospital up in Angola. And so I finally got a hold of them. They said, "Yep, we got your referral. We'll get you scheduled." They don't have me scheduled to go see the specialist until May, and I
yeah.
scheduled this in January, and so it's May, and it's like,
That
good Lord, hopefully I'm not dying or anything.
it
Jesus.
only get worse. I mean, I can't say that I have all the evidence to say that that's the reason why, but I have noticed that as we've gotten these more state plans or government
Mhm.
reliant plans, the longer the wait times and everything has become.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but it doesn't solve the issue of like the cost of things. Like
yeah,
I'm tired of putting a band-aid on things and like doing the easy because people love hand like. No, like why does it actually cost that much? And how do we get like for one, like how do we hold the hospitals accountable and how do we hold the insurance companies accountable?
Yeah.
Because like uh I don't know if it's because they're owned by like tiny hat people or
Well,
what, but they
and
kind of
it's a
stingy.
huge finger pointing game too. It's like the hospitals point at the insurance companies point at the government, or the government points to the hospital. It's a huge finger pointing game, and it's like I don't know what it is. You know?
Yeah. That's why when that dude went and like you remember a while back that dude went and shot that CEO of the
Yeah,
uh
Mangione shot the CEO of United Healthcare.
yeah, I was kind of just like I mean, eh, like it's bad,
Well, that's
but at the
bad.
same time like they're both killing people. So
That's
I'm
horrible.
just saying, like one's being stingy with
That's
money
horrible.
because I see there's people who like pay, you pay the like the insurance, and then when it comes time when you actually need it, the insurance company does everything it can to get out of it, and it's
Yeah,
like, wait, like the whole purpose of me even doing this was to have
yeah,
that comfort of if something does happen to me, and when it does,
yeah,
I won't have to worry about this. And
yeah.
now you guys are like, you know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. But
On that bombshell there. So no, one last thing I'll say before we end this tonight. You said how,
yeah.
insurance companies will decline or say no and not want to pay. I always joke that that's how I am with my family. Like whenever my kids or my wife ask for anything, I always say no the first time. I deny every claim on the first ask. Sometimes I don't even listen to what the request is. I just say no. And then if they repeatedly ask for something, then I'll consider it and maybe actually say yes to whatever they're asking me. But I always say I'm like an insurance company. I just say no every time, just in the hopes that they'll give up. And then if they
Oh,
continue to ask, then maybe I'll say yes.
we'll
So
have to get you a tiny hat.
give me a tiny hat. So all
Yeah.
right, sir. Well, I
You can
enjoyed
join the
talking to you
club.
this evening. So I do want to start podcasting again. So we'll see what mood I'm in next week, and
Okay.
hopefully we can continue this on, and get Ron back on here too. So
Oh yeah. Ron's been asking. He's been wanting to do it.
he's
Like
chomping at the bit. All right.
he's been asking me every week. Like, oh hey,
I
you
miss
heard from Rodney? I'm like, no.
I miss the cab of his truck. So, so
Or his backyard.
in his backyard. Yeah, it's a little cold right now for the backyard, but
That's true. But
so
you gotta make do with what you got. You know.
yep, make sacrifices. So, all
Yeah.
right, sir. Well, you have yourself a lovely evening, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. You too.
All right, bye, Josh.
All right. Peace.